Why is Denmark booming while much of Europe stagnates? The small Nordic nation is thriving, posting impressive GDP figures. It's a puzzle that challenges conventional wisdom. The story you might have heard centers on one industry: weight loss drugs. Novo Nordisk has seen astronomical success, its value ballooning. This has lifted the entire Danish economic ship. But is that the full picture? There's a more complex strategy at work. The Danish success story involves long-term industrial policy, a flexible labor market, and green energy. These have made the nation an outlier in Europe. Welcome to Geo-Capitalist, where we decode global wealth one map at a time. Today we explore the real reasons Denmark's economy is booming and what it means for Europe. So subscribe to the channel and let's get into it. The contrast between Denmark and the EU is becoming impossible to ignore. While the EU grapples with economic fallout, the country has shown surprising immunity, with GDP growth outpacing the Eurozone. This reflects a difference in economic structure and policy. Denmark's model appears to have found a formula for robust growth. The data tells a different story. This resilience begs the question of how. It is the result of strategic choices made over many years. The country has cultivated a specialized, high-value export economy. Understanding this requires us to examine the geopolitical context. Answering these questions is key to understanding why Denmark is succeeding. Denmark's economic performance stands out when compared to the broader European picture. Since 2020, the European Union has faced economic challenges, including soaring energy prices and cost-of-living crises. This makes Denmark's economic trajectory remarkable. While the EU's GDP has grown modestly, Denmark's economy has expanded at a much faster pace. A crucial part of the story is inflation. The country managed to keep price increases relatively subdued. Denmark boasts one of the lowest unemployment rates in the entire bloc. This agility is a core component of Denmark's economic success story. You might expect a small nation integrated into the European market to be pulled down by larger neighbors. However, Denmark has built an economic shield. A key element is its independent currency, the Danish krone, not part of the Eurozone. This gives its central bank autonomy over monetary policy. The krone is pegged to the euro, providing stability. Denmark's strong fiscal position has been a cornerstone of its resilience. The Danish government had the financial firepower to support its economy without plunging into a debt crisis. The country has cultivated a diversified portfolio of high-value industries. Denmark is exporting innovation and expertise. The period since 2020 has been a true test of economic resilience for nations across the globe, and Europe was no exception. The initial shock of the COVID-19 pandemic triggered unprecedented government responses, followed by a complex and uneven recovery. It was during this turbulent chapter that the key differences in Denmark's economic path became sharply defined. As supply chains snapped and global trade patterns were disrupted, Denmark, a nation heavily reliant on exports, could have been severely impacted. Yet its specialized industrial base proved to be a significant asset. The global demand for pharmaceuticals and green energy solutions accelerated, providing a powerful tailwind for Danish exports. This unique export profile led to a recovery path that looked very different from its EU peers. The surge in its pharmaceutical sector, in particular, injected a massive amount of capital and confidence into the economy at a critical time. Inflation was another area where Denmark charted a separate course, experiencing a more moderate and manageable price increase. A significant factor here was the country's long-standing commitment to renewable energy. It highlights a key advantage of maintaining monetary policy independence, the ability to calibrate economic levers to local conditions, proving to be a critical factor in its post-2020 success. The post-2020 economic landscape has seen an explosion of public debt. Governments across Europe stepped in with massive fiscal support. Denmark stands out due to its fiscal prudence and low debt. The Danish government entered the crisis from a position of incredible strength, launching effective support programs. This fiscal discipline is a core tenet of the Danish economic model. Denmark consistently runs budget surpluses while funding an extensive welfare state, achieved through high tax revenues and structural efficiency. Denmark's debt ratio remained among the lowest in the bloc. The benefit of this low debt position became clear as interest rates rose globally. Denmark was largely insulated from this fiscal squeeze, allowing continued investment in strategic priorities. The stability and high-quality public services have created an attractive environment for businesses and skilled labor. This model has allowed Denmark to emerge stronger, solidifying its status as a standout economic performer. At the heart of Denmark's economic surge lies pharmaceuticals. It is impossible to discuss the current boom without focusing on the phenomenal success of Novo Nordisk. Propelled by its treatments for diabetes and obesity, the company's market valuation has soared. This single company has become a primary engine of growth, boosting Denmark's trade balance and national income. However, attributing Denmark's success solely to a few blockbuster drugs would be a misleading oversimplification. Novo Nordisk's dominance is the culmination of a long-term strategy and a deeply rooted industrial ecosystem. This Medicon Valley hub has created a fertile ground for innovation. The sector is a major employer, fuels consumer spending, and generates tax revenues, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and prosperity. Consequently, the pharma boom is a story about strategic long-term industrial policy. While the pharmaceutical sector has grabbed the headlines, it is crucial to understand that Denmark's economic engine is not a one-cylinder machine. Another equally important driver of its boom is the country's long-standing leadership in the green energy transition. Decades before sustainability became a global buzzword, Denmark was making strategic investments in renewable energy, particularly wind power. This early mover advantage has allowed Danish companies like Vestas, a world-leading wind turbine manufacturer, and Ørsted, a global leader in offshore wind farm development, to dominate a rapidly expanding global market. Their expertise is now in high demand as nations worldwide rush to decarbonize their economies. This focus on green technology does more than just contribute to export revenues. It provides a foundational layer of economic and energy security. As we saw during the recent European energy crisis, Denmark's significant reliance on domestically produced wind power insulated it from the extreme price volatility of imported fossil fuels. This stability was a massive competitive advantage for all Danish industries, keeping production costs lower and more predictable than in neighboring countries. It effectively acted as a national shock absorber, protecting the economy from external energy shocks and reinforcing its reputation as a stable place to do business, thereby attracting further international investment into the country. Beyond energy and pharma, Denmark also boasts a highly advanced manufacturing and shipping sector. Companies like the shipping giant A.P. Møller, Maersk, are critical players in global trade, connecting Denmark to every corner of the world. But the manufacturing base is not about mass production, it is about high-value niche products. From high-end audio equipment and designer furniture to advanced industrial machinery and food ingredients, Danish manufacturing is characterized by innovation, quality, and design. This focus on premium, specialized goods means Danish exporters compete on quality rather than price, making them less vulnerable to competition from low-cost manufacturing hubs. Ultimately, the main driver of Denmark's boom is this powerful combination of several world-class industries. It is not an economy propped up by a single pillar, but a well-constructed edifice supported by several strong, interconnected columns, a dominant pharmaceutical sector, a pioneering green technology industry, and a resilient manufacturing and logistics base. This strategic diversification is the secret to its resilience and current success. The Danish model demonstrates that long-term vision, specialization, and sustainability can create a formidable economic engine capable of outperforming in a volatile global landscape. Denmark's relationship with the European Union is a masterclass in strategic integration, defining a unique geopolitical posture. As a full member, it enjoys access to the European single market, yet remains outside the Eurozone, maintaining its currency, the krone. This allows Denmark to tailor monetary policy to its domestic conditions, managing inflation and maintaining economic stability. This nuanced position allows Denmark to reap the benefits of EU membership while mitigating some constraints. Denmark champions the single market and free trade, but resists centralization of power in Brussels, giving Copenhagen geopolitical flexibility. The economic weight of Novo Nordisk means decisions made in Copenhagen can have ripple effects across the EU healthcare market. Denmark's economic outperformance challenges the push for ever closer union, serving as a case study for other wary member states. Beyond Europe, Denmark leverages its economic strengths to project influence, punching above its weight. Its pioneering role in the energy transition makes it a central node in global decarbonization. This exports a model for energy independence. Countries seek Danish expertise, giving Copenhagen green diplomatic leverage. Denmark's energy independence provides a stable foundation for its foreign policy. The Danish flexicurity labor market model also contributes to its geopolitical standing. International bodies cite Denmark as a best practice example, giving it a soft power advantage. The pharmaceutical boom has transformed Denmark into a global health powerhouse. This extends into global diplomacy, where access to vital medicines is a significant concern. Denmark is a niche superpower derived from its specialized economic strengths. Denmark's economic boom is shaking up the Nordic region, challenging Sweden's long-held dominance. Fueled by pharmaceuticals and green energy, Denmark's rise is shifting influence in regional forums like the Nordic Council. Now neighbors like Sweden and Finland are rethinking their own strategies, eyeing Denmark's model of industry clusters. This rivalry is sparking innovation and competition for talent, with Copenhagen emerging as a regional magnet. Yet Denmark's success also creates opportunities for collaboration, like the Medicon Valley cluster, which benefits both Denmark and Sweden. Denmark's leadership in offshore wind is another asset, offering a platform for regional green energy ambitions. But economic divergence brings friction-rising wages and a stronger krone challenge cross-border business. Navigating these imbalances will require careful coordination among Nordic partners. Denmark is no longer just a member of the bloc. It's becoming the region's economic center of gravity. The real reason for Denmark's boom? It's redrawing the power map of Northern Europe. Denmark's economic surge sends a disruptive message to the EU's core, especially Germany and France. Denmark's success outside the Eurozone and with selective integration challenges the idea that deeper union is the only path to prosperity. This shift boosts Denmark's influence in EU institutions, strengthening the voice of smaller, fiscally conservative states. It also highlights vulnerabilities in the economic models of larger EU nations slow to embrace green and knowledge economies. Denmark's rise forces uncomfortable introspection in Berlin and Paris, prompting a rethink of industrial policy. The boom acts as a stress test for EU cohesion and the future of the Eurozone. Denmark's story is positive for Europe, but it complicates the bloc's vision. The EU must now adapt to a new reality. A small member has become an economic powerhouse on its own terms. This will shape the future of the European project. Denmark's growth is impressive, but its heavy reliance on Novo Nordisk and pharmaceuticals is risky. When one company's value eclipses national GDP, sustainability becomes a concern. A downturn in pharma could devastate the economy, echoing the Dutch disease effect. The krone's strength, driven by pharma exports, distorts monetary policy and hurts other industries. Public finances are also exposed. Novo Nordisk's taxes fund much of the welfare state. Any dip in the company's fortunes could force painful budget cuts. This dependency masks weaknesses and stifles diversification. Other sectors like green tech and shipping are overshadowed by pharma's dominance. The challenge used today's windfall to build new, globally competitive industries. Without diversification, Denmark risks becoming a one-trick pony, dangerous for any advanced economy. Denmark's model faces mounting internal and external pressures. Domestically, booming industries are straining the labor market, with shortages in STEM talent driving up costs. The high-tax welfare state is under pressure from an aging population, raising questions about long-term sustainability. The current boom masks deeper structural challenges in funding public services. Externally, Denmark is vulnerable to global trade shifts and regulatory changes abroad. Protectionism or new pharma regulations could hit exports hard. The flexicurity model, while praised, can create insecurity for workers if retraining programs lag behind economic change. Social cohesion depends on these safety nets keeping pace. Balancing economic dynamism with social stability is a persistent challenge. The Danish model's future depends on managing these pressures wisely. Denmark's long-term strength lies in its resilience, built on decades of strategic choices. Low public debt gives Denmark flexibility to weather future crises. The high-tax, high-service model fosters innovation and social trust, enabling tough reforms. Specialization in green tech and life sciences positions Denmark for durable growth in global markets. These sectors address fundamental needs, energy and health, insulating Denmark from economic cycles. The lesson resilience comes from fiscal prudence, social cohesion, and future-focused industries. The challenge is to avoid complacency, investing the current windfall in education, startups, and new technologies. Denmark's success is sustainable only if it keeps innovating and diversifying. The real reason for the boom? Mastery of the long game. Denmark's story is a blueprint for long-term economic strategy. From a long-term perspective, Denmark's economic success story is poised to have a lasting impact on the future of the European Union. Its unique model of being in the EU but not all in provides a powerful case study for a more flexible, multi-speed Europe. As the EU grapples with questions of deeper integration versus national sovereignty, Denmark's experience demonstrates outstanding economic results while retaining control over key policy areas like currency. This will likely embolden other member states, particularly in Central and Eastern Europe, to argue for a more à la carte approach to the European project, where economic cooperation is prioritized over deeper political union. This could permanently alter the trajectory of the bloc. Denmark's economic weight, particularly its leadership in pharmaceuticals and green tech, positions it as a long-term agenda setter within the EU. It is no longer just a rule taker, it is a rule maker. As the EU formulates strategic industrial policies to compete with the US and China, Denmark's voice will be indispensable. It will be at the center of debates on healthcare regulation, intellectual property, and the continent's green transition strategy. This gives a small nation an outsized and durable influence, ensuring its strategic interests are embedded in the core of EU policy, a significant shift in the bloc's internal power dynamics. This influence could serve as a constructive challenge to the EU's larger economies. Denmark's agility and focus on high-value innovation stand in contrast to the industrial models of Germany and France. This could act as a catalyst, forcing the EU's traditional engines to accelerate structural reforms and investments in future-oriented sectors. Denmark's success becomes both a benchmark and competitive pressure, spurring a broader wave of modernization across the continent. This could make the entire EU economy more competitive globally, even if it introduces new internal political frictions. Denmark's long-term role may be that of a pragmatic bridge builder within a more complex and diverse EU. Its position outside the Eurozone but inside the single market allows it to understand the perspectives of both ins and outs. As the EU potentially expands and continues to evolve, this ability to mediate will be invaluable. Denmark's journey offers a vision for strategic specialization and fiscal discipline to become a resilient, influential, and prosperous player, not just weathering the future but actively shaping it for itself and the wider European continent. So, what's the real reason Denmark's economy is booming? It's a complex story written on the map of modern Europe. Denmark has leveraged its small size, cultivating a specialized economy positioned to capitalize on global trends. This success is not luck, but long-term design and disciplined execution. Consistent investment in R&D, combined with a social model that fosters innovation, has created a formidable economic engine. Denmark's position within the EU has provided the ideal framework to execute this strategy, building a resilient economy. This challenges the conventional wisdom about how a small nation should operate. The foundations of Denmark's success provide a powerful toolkit for navigating future challenges. The Danish boom offers lessons for nations everywhere. It's a story of strategic positioning, preparing for the future, and expertly navigating policy, shifting the balance of power within Europe. The story of Denmark illustrates the forces we explore here at GeoCapitalist. It shows how policy choices, geographic positioning, and strategic industrial investment intersect to create national wealth. Understanding these currents is essential for making sense of the headlines. Every country has a similar story waiting to be decoded, a map of its own strengths, weaknesses, and strategic imperatives. By analyzing these maps, we can anticipate the changes that lie ahead. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, I recommend you watch my next video. And if you believe that understanding the why behind global events is crucial, then subscribe to the channel. We release in-depth analyses designed to give you the context you need to see the world more clearly. This is GeoCapitalist, where we believe that in an increasingly complex world, maps don't lie. They provide the clearest path to understanding the forces that define our past, present, and future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.